From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What up, everybody? Showtime. Wake Up War Chant, part of the WarChant.com family. This show, as always, brought to you by Zaxby's. If you're not a member, though, of WarChant.com, take this time to write this down. WarChant30. It's a promo code. Use it. 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. If you're a student, email us from your student email address to support@WarChant.com. You'll get a promo code for 12 months of access for $12 American dollars. Still an absolutely amazing deal, almost as good as a deal as you can get every single day at Zaxby's. As we record this, it's Sunday. Sunday is meant for Zaxby's, as we have touched on many times, Corey.
Indeed.
Don't know exactly what I'm going to go with right now, but when I get there, I'll just spend 10 minutes in line deliberating over all the tasty options, and then probably
people love those people. Yeah,
I'll make a good choice. Can't go wrong.
You really can't. Literally can't go wrong.
We should take Brady out one of these days after he's done doing Leonard Hamilton camp. Maybe take him out to Zaxby's, refuel the machine, feed the beast.
Probably will make a run to Zaxby's one of these days with him. Okay. He likes the fries. I don't know if he's ever tried the Zax sauce. Kids are afraid of stuff they don't know.
I want to be there.
That.
I want to film it when it happens.
But Brady's saying right now he's mouthing that he has tried the Zax sauce and loves it. Yeah. So, all right, good, man.
Yeah.
Good.
He's here.
Yep.
Brady's here.
Brady made another appearance, everyone.
Yeah, man. Keep it
and
rolling.
he just ate about an hour and a half ago, so we'll see what fireworks we have in store this time.
Oh, boy. All right, so later on in the program, we're going to have Michael Langston on the show to break down recruiting. Florida State had another busy recruiting weekend here in Tallahassee. Michael's also currently in Atlanta, where the Rivals 5-Star Challenge is going down. A couple targets for Florida State out at that combine.
Are they 5 stars?
Actually, I don't think so.
Is it a challenge to become a 5-star?
Mainly, yes.
It's not a challenge among 5 stars.
Correct.
Okay, I got you.
Correct. So we were hoping to maybe see Jeff Sims out there, but I guess that did not work out for whatever reason. But there are some targets out there that Willie Taggart and company are after, and perhaps can get that elusive 5-star rating. Michael Langston, he'll be on the show later to give you guys the latest on the recruiting. Football-wise, not a lot to talk about now. Maybe later in the week, probably around the time that we'll do the Renegade Express. Leave your questions over on the Tribal Council. Also, we might not be able to do phone calls this week since I'll be on the road. Actually, I think we can. Yeah, we can do it that way. That's fine. Yeah, call us, 850-792-5730. We'll pick out some of the better questions. Corey and I will answer them later on in the week. I don't know if we'll do it on the same day as Renegade Express. We'll see how it goes. So baseball, let's start with that. I know people are groaning. Stop. Mike Martin Jr. named the 9th head coach in Florida State baseball history. Is that?
That's what you told me. Yeah.
Okay. I just
wanted the second of the last 4 decades, though.
Right.
I feel like they were running through them pretty quickly there for a while,
yeah,
like every couple
of
years, and then all of a sudden they just hit the brakes for 4 decades.
Not surprised, obviously, by the announcement that Mike Martin Jr. is the next head coach, right?
No, and not surprised by some of the negative reaction either. It was very predictable, and in a sense understandable. If you're not really dialed into how the program has been run, and this isn't a shot. A lot of people are casual baseball fans. They might be huge Florida State fans, but they pay attention maybe in May. And that's when they start paying attention, is in May and June. So they're not really in tune with how the baseball program works. This guy has been the guy for the better part of a decade now. So he's been running the show. It's 11's team, it's 11's program, but this was his right-hand man and his left-hand man. I mean, he was doing a lot of the on-field stuff and putting together the roster. He was the roster manager, essentially. If it had been any other coach, if it had been Mike Bell, who had been here for 22 years and had been the recruiting coordinator for the last decade, it had been part of 1,046 wins and 8 World Series appearances and 17 Super Regionals, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to go with an assistant, keep it going. But that last name is what gives people pause, and I get it. And you wonder, okay, did they even do a real search? What if O'Sullivan wanted to come? What if Pat Casey wanted to come out of retirement? Blah, 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 all the way down the line. Is this really the best Florida State could do? I get that. I get that you could be concerned by that. But if you're wanting to keep a good program good, I don't know
great
that
program,
a
great.
great program great. I don't know that you want to shake it up too much and just say, all right, we're cutting everyone, we're cutting everybody out, we're going to bring a whole new person in from wherever who won't have the connections, won't have this, won't have that. And that's not to say it wouldn't work. You know, Florida did it with the guy at Clemson. He turned out pretty good. The guy at Vanderbilt turned out pretty good. The guy at Virginia, they were assistant coaches that went elsewhere. I get it. But it just seems kind of like a no-brainer to me. No, a guy that's been a part of the program for a quarter century, that's been a part of 1,046 wins in 8 World Series, 22 straight 40-win seasons. The guy's got a great resume. Whether you don't like him because of his last name, okay, but he has a great resume.
Is it faux outrage, or do you think folks that are angry with merit, or it's a sincere, genuine sort of angst, or is it just, it's boring right now, I need something to rage against. I'm going to rage against this hire.
I mean, I would say it's faux outrage in the sense that I don't think the people that are acting that mad really care that much about college baseball. I just don't. I think it's the principle of it, of, hey, so his son just gets the job. We're Florida State, and we're just going to give it to his son because I get that. And quite frankly, I don't know that another program, I'm sure there is, this is probably an overstatement. There aren't many universities, athletic departments in this country that were more burned by nepotism than this one. We all know what I'm talking about. It happened 18 years ago now, but it got burned by nepotism. They skirted nepotism laws to have a son become a vital part of a coaching staff, and it was a disaster. So I get it. This is different. This is different because, again, there's only 3 coaches on a baseball coaching staff anyway. Mike Martin Jr. has been there throughout and has been one of the key reasons why they've been very good this whole time. It wasn't the other one where the guy was a receivers coach and all of a sudden you lose Mark Richt. You literally could have put out a feeler and gotten the most qualified offensive coordinator in the country to come to Florida State at that time to be the offensive coordinator of that program at that time. And you went and got a son that was completely unqualified for it and over his head from the jump.
Was he, though? I don't think it's similar.
He had never called plays.
Okay.
He never called plays. He never did. It was Mark Richt. You know what I mean? Jeff Bowden wasn't – it wasn't like Mark Richt was leaning on Jeff Bowden or before that, if it was Brad Scott or whoever was calling plays, they weren't leaning on Jeff Bowden to give him a game plan idea. It was simply, okay, he's been our receivers coach for a good long while.
Why don't we just
promote from within? He needs a shot. Well, no, he didn't, and it was a disaster. This isn't that. This is a guy that has proven himself over the last 2 decades for what he's done for this program. And I wrote in the column that was on War Chant on Sunday, his last name did help him get the job here back in whatever it was, 1998. Mm-hmm. You can't argue that. It was his first job, and he gets to be an assistant coach at one of the preeminent programs in the country. So, yeah, at that time, you could say, yeah, he got his job. He got the job, or he got a great look because his old man was the head coach. But we've been doing this now for 22 years of data to say, okay, this guy knows what he's doing.
I think that you said it best in your column. I was hoping you'd say it yourself, but I'll say it for you. I think the key difference here, the juxtaposition between these 2 guys, Jeff Bowden and Mike Martin Jr., is that Jeff Bowden was largely responsible for the quote-unquote lost decade. Mike Martin Jr. is largely responsible for this program maintaining its success over the last 15, 20 years. That's the difference. Like, it's a branch off the same tree. It's a son. It's a father. It's a guy who put the program on the map. But the sons are completely different. You can't say that Mike Martin Jr. is the Jeff Bowden of the baseball program, because Mike Martin Jr. is responsible for the success of the baseball team, whereas Jeff Bowden, maybe, he did coach Peter Work. He tapped into the vast potential of Peter Work that no one else would have been able to. But Jeff Bowden largely was responsible for the downfall of the offense, and then that also led to other things in the program sort of disintegrating. Mike Martin Jr. has kept this thing afloat and kept it running well. I mean, practically for the last 10 years, they've averaged a trip to Omaha every 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, take it back to, 2005. That's what I don't want to pick a random arbitrary date, but yeah, I thought that was the best thing that you said in that column was that like, yeah, listen, folks, this he's the reason why they've still been well, and it's a delicate thing to talk about. I'm sure for Corey because he does have a good relationship with Mike Martin, just out of just respect, just general respect.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you're friends or anything, but it's kind of tough to advocate Mike Martin Jr. without somehow diminishing Mike Martin to a senior to a certain degree. I mean, it kind of is. If you want to make a really accurate, passionate argument about why Jr. deserves a job, part of it you have to almost diminish what Mike Martin has done the last 10 years. But that's the fact of the matter. And I just don't know what the outrage
is. Which is natural, too, because you're in your 70s.
Yeah.
You're not busting your butt at 72 like you did when you were 38. It's just not how life works. You won't believe how bad I'm going to be at this show when I'm 71 years old. I'll fall asleep like Francesca. Was it Francesa?
Francesa.
Like he does half the time. I will be. You'll hear me snoring. You'll hear me doing what Brady did in the van the other day. I will not care when I'm 72. That's just natural. That's just how life works. But, Mike Martin was not the same coach at 73 that he was at 43. We all understand that. I don't even think that's something you have to tiptoe around. Yeah. We get it. He gets it. You don't work as hard on the recruiting trail or this or that when you're that age. You let your assistants do their work. And he let that one assistant in particular, who's been with him the whole time, the last 22 years, do a ton of work.
I think it's almost the contrarian, the anarchist in me thinks it's almost kind of cool that Jeff Johnson from Chipola has all these friends because they're defending him on Twitter and War Chant. That's got to kind of feel good for him. That's a good little consolation prize. You got friends out there.
It's a bizarre, what would you call it? Planned attack. I don't know, like a three-pronged coordinated attack. Yeah. Look, Yeah, well, he's the head coach at Chipola.
Did anybody think it was going to be any besides unless
there's nobody
Joe Girardi wanted to leave the big succumb to Florida?
Well, no, I will say this. I don't think it was automatic in the sense that if somebody that's proven head coach.
You have to wow to take this job away from Mike Martin Jr.
Sure, it's like what they used to always say about heavyweight fighters, like the champ. To beat the champ on points at the end, you better really have beaten him. Yeah. You can't leave much to doubt. This one had to be something that would so blow Mike Martin Jr. out of the water. And you're talking about with the guy like Michigan. Somebody like that's done what he's done at Michigan. Now, look, I will say this. No Florida State fans would have been excited about hiring the guy from Maryland, which is where he came from.
Right.
And then he got to Michigan and has done a great job
Never
there.
made a regional in Maryland, by the way.
Right, yeah. And barely beat Florida State ever when he was there. So, for him, they wouldn't have hired him from Maryland. But now that he's proven himself at Michigan and got him into the national championship series, yeah, man, I'm sure Florida State would be like, oh, great, well, if he wants to. But they couldn't. Like I wrote, Michigan's about to give him a huge raise. And there's still no guarantee that he could be able to do here what he's done there. But at least he's proven it. Mm-hmm. But my point was there were no real viable, proven Power 5 candidates that were coming to Florida State. The TCU guy wasn't coming here. Mississippi State couldn't even get him. The Louisville guy wasn't coming here. You weren't going to get somebody like that. And I don't even know, I think the guy at Indiana that got them to the World Series was Schwarber. No, the Schwarber, Smith. I think he's at Arizona State now. Didn't he go to Arizona State?
Yeah.
They're not great shakes either. There's just no guarantee when you take one of these one-year wonders or two-year wonders. And I'm not dismissing what he's done at Michigan. It's incredible. But that doesn't mean that it's going to translate into a crazy run of success at a place like Florida State. So either way, I don't think that a Power 5, I don't think no elite blue blood was coming to Florida State. No Mississippi State coach, no Florida coach, no Vandy coach. So you go to the next tier.
No, it's not called Florida blue blood, please.
Well, they are. So Florida State's a blue blood. They're a blue blood.
Florida's not a blue blood in baseball.
Man, they've been to the World Series like 15, 16 times. Now, O'Sullivan made them a lot bluer. Let's put it that way. He dipped them in blue. Before that they weren't blue. They weren't a blue blood, but now they are. Now they're considered one of the elite programs in the country. So you weren't going to get one of those guys. You just can't compete. You just weren't. So then what's the guarantee that if you go get a Tulane coach or a Troy coach or an assistant coach from another Power 5 school that they would do a better job? There's just not one. There are people that could have blown Meat's candidacy out of the water, but there aren't many. And again, you did tab. If you look at his resume, you might have the most. He probably has the best resume of any assistant coach in the country. 22 years. They won 40 games all those years. All the batting records they've set. All the guys that have been drafted. The 8 World Series appearances. I mean, that's over 1,000 wins in 22 years. All that is a great resume, but it's his son.
Right. So
I get why that gives people pause. I think that people think it was an inevitability. It's been this way for a decade. Mike Martin Jr. is going to get the job. It would have been really interesting if they would have followed up last year's crazy regional exit with a losing record this year, like it looked like they were going down or missing the tournament altogether. That's a much harder sell, I think. Maybe that's not fair, but that would have been a much harder sell. But they just went to Omaha again, man. They've been to Omaha 2 of the last 3 years. They win 40 games every year. This is a great program. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that's not to say that he's a guaranteed success either. He's a different dude.
He is.
He is a different dude than his dad.
The lack of good cop to his bad cop is going to maybe have some.
Well, he might hire a good cop. He might have somebody like that. It's different when it's your program. It's just different. And I'll always remember this, and I don't know if I've said it here or not, but I remember saying it on headlines. When Stoops got the job, and somebody asked Jimbo about Stoops going to Kentucky. And he said, he's happy for him and everything. He goes, but until you sit in that chair, you can have all these ideas of how you want a program and how you want it to run and your way and this and that. But until you sit in that chair, you have no idea. You have no idea. You're the one that has to. You're the ultimate decider. You might want that, but then you find out, oh man, this isn't all that fun. Maybe I don't want this. Maybe I'm not cut out. It's a different type of job, man. And we'll see. I mean, Meats wanted this for a long time.
Well, clearly, I mean, it has to. The one thing I'm not comfortable with is this, although it has to be, because, I mean, his resume is just as good as Brian O'Connor's of Virginia's was just as good as Tim Corbin's was when better. I mean, he has a better resume than those guys.
Before they got those jobs.
Yeah, before
O'Sullivan got his job in Florida. Meats' resume was exponentially better.
So, why did he never go? And then I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, and it has to be because he wanted this job. And I know he's put his name in for some of the jobs, but Mississippi State's a blue blood job. That's a top shelf job. That job's come open twice in the last 5 years, or 3 years. It's been open 3 times in the last 10 seasons. He never went for that job. They never came after him. John Cohen went after the guy from Indiana. Why didn't John Cohen come to Tallahassee and knock down the door and make Mike Martin Jr. an offer he couldn't refuse? That's the sort of disconnect that I have, because to your point, if you're going to hire a coach and you're not going to pluck away a guy that's done it, you're not going to pluck away a Pat Casey or a John Savage, and you're going to have to go the Power 5 assistant route, Mike Martin Jr. has got to be in your top 5 options for anybody for the last 10 years.
But they went a head coaching route, right?
Who's
Mississippi
that?
State?
Yeah.
And also I will say this, that when you have that last name, now it works both ways.
But Andy Cannizaro, the guy that they originally hired at Mississippi State 3 years ago, I don't think he had any head coaching experience.
Okay. So, but if you're Mississippi State, you don't think of yourself as a way station or a stepping stone. Or, hey, let's Mike Martin Jr. coach here for a few years.
Everyone thought that, though. So I guess that's a safe assumption. He was going to leave. As soon as his dad left, he's coming home.
Well, yeah, he would be the leading candidate. If he coached Mississippi State this last year, got him to a regional, then his dad retires. Of course, Florida State's going to want him to come. You know what I mean? That just seems natural, a natural thing to assume. And so if you're Mississippi State, you're like, well, no, I'm not going to. This isn't a rental. I don't want this. I don't want to get this guy some experience before he goes back to Florida State. That's not what we do at Mississippi State. So I do think that I think oddly, weirdly, ironically, the last name and his dad's situation hurt him when he tried to get a head coaching job. And also, what if he, I think part of him, maybe deep down, is I don't want to leave my dad. I want to help him. I want to help him win a national title. I want to help him get back to Omaha. I don't want to leave him in the lurch for my own career when we're still trying to accomplish something here. And Lord knows they butted heads. I talk so much I can't remember this, if I said this or not. But in my story about Meat, when I was talking about just his relationship with his dad, or it was after his dad coached his last game here, Meat was like, yeah, man, when Tyler Holt and Clyde Keller And these people come and Mike Bell even when they came
They
and
see the way that we
when they see the way we interact, they're like, oh my gosh, is it always like this? Like there's two stubborn men, two hard-headed men that would get in screaming matches. You know, according to me, really never in front of the players, but in the coach's office, they would get in screaming matches, and they'd have to sit in different sides of the locker room because of that. But it's because they both really care about the program. And no matter how mad he might be at his dad, he wanted his dad to go out on top. He wanted his dad to win. What if he leaves 3 years ago and it just completely crumbles?
Yeah.
And then his dad goes out like Bowden went out. Nobody wants to see that. You know, he didn't. So, you know, I think that might have been part of it too. Is like, yes, this sucks. I'm having to do all this extra work. I'm having to keep the program. I'm the recruiting coordinator and the offensive coach, and at times, by the way, calls pitches, and the third base coach.
Crazy.
All this stuff. Gives the pregame speeches.
Control freak.
So,
No,
so he leaves, and then who fills that role?
Yeah.
And if they don't care as much, or if they're not as good, and Florida State the last 3 years had gone 28 and 30 each year, that would have been a kind of a sad ending to a great career. But, you know, partly because of Levin, partly because this team got crazy hot, and partly because of Mike Martin Jr., they went to the World Series 2 of the last 3 years.
By the way, he'll be introduced on Monday at 3:30 p.m. We'll have a lot of coverage over on warchant.com. You're going to be tasked with writing a column after that, you think?
I don't know. I think what I want to ask him, and this is legitimate, is
how do you get the name Meat?
That's what you're going to ask.
Correct.
I want to ask how is he going to be after they lose 4-2 to Florida or 4-2 to Miami? His dad would usually come in and put a big old smile on his face and say, sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield. Yeah. After the game on Wednesday, when the season was over, somebody asked Levin about Meat. And, you know, he said the whole thing about, 10-minute cooling off period. He needs a 2-week cooling off period after a loss. So that's something that has to get – nobody really ever talks to him after losses. This, in fact, was the first time I ever remember that happening.
Yeah.
Was these last 2 losses. Nobody ever talks to Meat. So how is he going to deal with that? How's he going to deal with his players and the media? Because his dad would never in a million years throw those players under the bus. It was always the coaches got to coach better, this and that. How is Meat going to handle that aspect of it? And meeting with boosters and all that entails. Raising money. That's what I'm most interested in. And I'll ask him about that because I'm sure he's thought about it. But he can't come in here to a press conference after losing a game to Virginia or something and just be
why can't he?
1 or 2 word answers.
Yeah,
That's just not. I mean, yeah, I guess he could. Yeah, I guess he could.
He doesn't have to be his dad. He doesn't have to be gregarious and nice. He doesn't have to be his dad. He can. I got no problem with him looking at me like, man, that was a stupid question. I'm not answering that. I probably won't like him, but hey, that's who you are. Be who
nobody's
going to
tell you that. Nobody's going to tell you
that's
a stupid question.
man.
That's right.
Don't do that, man. This is War Chant, folks.
Yeah,
we're the ones asking the good questions.
That's right.
Things.
That's right.
All right, so the 2 things I want to talk about real quickly, and then we'll wrap up and move along. We'll have Michael Langston join us here. First off, just I don't see how it's not going to be successful. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it was just Meat this year. Maybe he rides them too hard. Like say this was year number 1 of the Meat era, and then they're struggling the way they were. Maybe he pushes them so hard, he's so abrasive that they just cave and fold and quit on him. But I don't know if the team would even have been that emotionally fragile in year 1 for him. I think a lot of it was what was floating around, 11's last season. I just think that, again, I'm holding him very much responsible for the success of this program for the last 10, 12, 15 years. That I just find it hard to believe that there's going to be there's the potential always for setback, but I just don't see how he's not going to keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, you're going to be working with a full staff. Again, no disrespect to what the previous staff was, but you're going to be working with a full staff. And you're going to be able to recruit better, theoretically, and evaluate better. And, we'll see what his staff is, who he decides, who he tabs, and who's going to be here. But, I think if you feel like you've been hamstrung a little bit recruiting and still landed these classes, because Florida State still kind of can recruit itself, not to dismiss what Meade does, that's too big of an overstatement, but it's still Florida State. It's still a destination for these players. Imagine being able to be at 33% more showcases, be seen by more, be able to recruit 33% more of the people, more of the great players in the state.
Be able to coach 33% more on hands here on a
Well, that's another thing is he'll be at the field every practice. He'll have 2 other guys that'll be doing a lot of the recruiting. And a lot of the recruiting, it's not, it's kind of just, hey, we're here. We want you to know we're here. We're watching you. We're interested. But he was on, he was on so he was on the road so much that he would miss multiple practices at a time to be on the road to recruit. Well, now he won't be able to do that. So maybe they'll be better fundamentally. I don't know. He's got to get somebody that he trusts to evaluate, because that's one thing when you're a control freak, and I'm not even saying he's a control freak, but he likes to be in control. It's up to, he's been the guy that's decided, okay, that's who we're recruiting. We're recruiting. We're going to offer this kid. Mm-hmm. That's the guy. I make that final call. Well, now he's going to have to trust people to give him information when he doesn't see them. Like, hey, man, this guy's really good. He does blah, 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 blah.
I know you don't like this and that about the kid, but you got to trust me.
Yeah.
Meek, he's got this.
And
this,
will
that,
he
that.
be able to do that?
Yeah.
But I think, he's known this day was coming, probably. He's been thinking about it, I'm sure, for the last – his dad's been old for a good long while now. So he's probably been thinking about this for a long time, who he'd want on his staff. At least in the last year. Once Bell left, for sure, he's had to formulate in his mind, okay, who do I want to be my two paid coaches? Who do I want to be my volunteer coach? Who do I want to be my director of baseball ops? All that stuff. He's got to have a plan already in place. It'll be interesting to see how quickly it comes together and who it is. But it's got to be guys he trusts.
Yeah. I kind of hope, and I don't think they're going to do it since it's going to be in the museum at Moore. I wanted to see the whole AD president shake his hand. They both hold up the jersey with his name on it. Like, do you think they'll do all that pomp and circumstance on, later on Monday?
I don't know. I don't even know what number he wears. I know he wears a number. He just always has that the windbreaker on, so you never get to see it. I guess, right?
Yeah, I want to see the mummies.
What did they do when 11 was hired? Can we go back and dig up that newsreel footage?
I know. We should see if we could do that.
They played that before movies at the theater. In Tallahassee this week. Hey, look at number 11. I wish I could do impressions.
Oh, and then the last thing I want to ask you about, and then again we'll bring on Michael Langston to talk about recruiting because you folks love that sort of stuff.
Like my shoes, by the way?
Yeah, and Brady's.
Brady got some Kyries.
Are those what those are?
Yeah.
What was he wearing yesterday at Ira's? The orange, the ones that had the orange accents on them. Were those the same ones he was wearing yesterday?
Same ones, yeah. You were it was in the dark, so you couldn't see as well. Those are the Kyries. They were on clearance, too, which I'm not sure what that's about.
Okay.
Maybe Kyrie's they're the Kyrie fly traps, apparently.
Right on.
But maybe Kyrie's star is dimming a little bit, that his shoes will be on clearance.
Maybe.
So
Can I go to the Hamilton camp and film Brady crossing cats up?
Yeah, but if he gets crossed up and falls down, let's just leave that to us.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
We'll share it amongst ourselves.
That won't happen here. Just ultimately, what do you think the administration of Florida State was thinking when they made the hire in terms of like what they – because like how important is it, you think, to the administration for this team to win a national title? I think when they were looking at this, I'm sure David Coburn's like, I got a whole bunch of things to worry about. I've got a football team on the brink. I've got a budget that's teetering on solvency and whatnot, and we've got a new network launching. We've got to figure out how we're going to integrate all that money. And – we can't chance losing this guy. We've got to maintain a good relationship with the guy who's built this program.
Right.
I mean, there's just so many things that I just don't know like what people kind of really were expecting for this administration to do. Like what sort of bold, you can't do that stuff. I mean, they couldn't do something crazy like hire a Doug Minkiewicz or something. They couldn't. And I don't know like what the calculus would be for a guy like David Coburn or whoever is responsible for making this decision. Just to be like, it's just staring at the face the right. They've never won a national title. He's been in that dugout. He's called the pitches in some of these games. He's set up the sort of the mindset they want to have at the plate. The offense went cold out there. So, yeah, we're risking the chance that we're never going to win a national title. But how important is that ultimately when it's a program that stays clean, graduates kids, does well, puts them in the league, and is still kind of like a shining example to most other programs in the country.
Yeah, and I don't think you're sacrificing winning a national championship. I think it's just how sports and life work, man. You give yourself enough chances, theoretically, you should win one. And what they're thinking is they're always good. They're always in the postseason. They're always down to the final few teams in the country. Whether, last year was an anomaly, but they were a national seed last year and got beat 2 straight in their own home park, including the crazy end with Mississippi State. But they're always giving themselves a chance in the postseason. There's a chance you can make so you want to just keep that going. You just want to keep that going, and eventually you think the luck will change in Omaha. But why? Again, it's not even like if they had come off a couple of losing seasons, then yeah, that's a really hard sell. What happened these last 2 years? Why aren't y'all any good? But again, I know it was a crazy confluence of events over those 3-week stretch, but they just went to Omaha for the second time in 3 years. And all those other years, they were a national seed or close to a national seed. They're always in the conversation. So just stay in the conversation. I think that's the thinking there, is we keep this thing rolling. And you can roll your eyes and say, rolling, you don't ever win championships. Okay, but if you give yourself enough chances, you're going to win a championship. It just happens. This is crazy what they've done here. It's a statistical anomaly to be there 17 times and not win it once. But if you keep giving yourself here's a promise I'll make to all Florida State fans.
Oh, here we go.
They won't go 0 for the next 17.
Oh.
There you go. They're not going to go 0 for the next 17. So out of the next 17 trips to Omaha, they're going to win a couple of them, or at least one. But you just keep giving yourself enough chance. This is a really good program. It's a great program. It's one of the 10 to 12 best in America. Every year, annually, perennially. So you don't focus just on what happens in Omaha. Focus on what happens from October to June, October to May. That's what makes it a great program, and you want to keep as much of that as possible. Plus, it was cheap.
Yes.
It wasn't as expensive as you would have had to go for another coach. And the other benefit is if you don't completely cut off your ties to the guy that ran the program for the last 4 decades, where y'all had all those great video tributes. You don't immediately anger him by going with Doug Minkiewicz or Pedro Grafal or Jeff Johnson or whoever, one of the bandos, whoever else was.
Chris, we love you, man.
Whoever else had their name in the hat. Because, and again, with Minkiewicz, there's just no guarantee. It would be crazy to me as an AD to hire someone, and he might be a great coach. He's never coached college baseball. So to go that route, when you have somebody here that knows how the program has been run, knows how he wants to run it, and has been a part of 1,000 wins, that would be a weird decision to me to do that. Not saying it would be wrong. Minkiewicz might be a wild card and might lead him to 5 World Series championships, but that's a really, really risky decision with no real proof that it would work out. He doesn't have anything that on his resume that says, and I'm not picking on Doug Minkiewicz, he obviously knows baseball, that he knows how to win in the ACC.
His first 3 years.
Again, that's minor league baseball. He doesn't recruit any of those kids. They're given to him.
Yeah. You
got to go get them. And you got to be able to communicate with 18-year-olds.
I think there's not too much of a bridge between those two in terms of communicating and getting the best out of it.
But also, I don't, when it comes to minor league baseball, like how many of those, nobody really cares about they're not trying to win things. They're trying to advance.
Yeah.
Trying to advance as in those players are trying to climb the ladder.
But he won, though, at every level. He coached that in the minor leagues. He was in AAA, AA. I mean, he won the Southern League title one time in AA. Yeah. With the Biscuits or whoever he was coaching.
Did he win the ACC? Has he been up to Durham?
He has not been to Durham.
Has he seen that? I bet he probably has, actually. I bet Doug Minkiewicz in his career has been in that park. But, yeah. Has he been into Alex Box Stadium on a wild Saturday night?
In Baton Rouge?
Yeah. I don't know, man.
All right. Will there be a fourth year if Mike Martin Jr. in the first 3 years, he makes the tournament every single year, only hosts one time, but they never make it out of the regional round?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. We're going to talk football, recruiting with Michael Langston after this. Plus, is Deondre Francois going to be playing in Doak Campbell Stadium this fall? We'll talk about that next. Wake Up War Chant.
The universe is a big place, so you should feel especially lucky you ended up on the same planet with Zaxby's. And right now, we're cooking up our special Cajun Spice Blackened Chicken for our Cajun Club Sandwich and Black and Blue Salad. It's an intergalactically delicious taste experience, and you don't have to travel light years to get it. The Cajun Club Sandwich and Black and Blue Salad, only at Zaxby's.
Welcome back, everybody. As stated, time for some football talk, recruiting talk. Michael Langston, recruiting analyst for WarChant.com and Rivals.com, joining us now on Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's. He's out in Atlanta for the 5-star camp. We'll talk about that shortly. But let's talk about the week that was. Michael, how are you? First off, this is a fun camp for you coming up, right? This 5-star challenge. It was pretty sweet last year.
Yeah, it's a fun event. It's one of the best, I think, summer events out there. I don't think you get much better than this. Great elite prospects. I can profess to they're staying in a very nice hotel. So I'm here right now at the W Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's phenomenal, and it's going to be a great event.
All right, well, bring me back some gear. If they give you guys a swag bag, bring me one, man. I didn't get
Yeah,
anything
they even
nice.
left some Jack Daniels up in my room, so it's like,
There we go.
there you go.
Langston living it up. All right, Michael, first off, before we get to talking about what's coming up this week at the Rivals Camp, let's talk about the week that was. A lot of visitors on campus, per usual. That seems to sort of be the strategy. Willie Taggart and company are deploying, just trying to bring as many kids onto campus as often as they can. Two of the guys I want to kind of touch on, I think the two prospects that most fans are interested in hearing about, Thomas Schrader, the offensive lineman from Venice High School, and then Brian Robinson, the wide receiver from Palm Beach Central, home of Akeem Dent. Robinson was a long-time Miami commitment, but has since backed off on that. What sort of vibe did you get from him following his visit to Florida State this past week?
Well, the vibe's been, I mean, I had mentioned many a times that he was a guy that, don't be surprised if he flips to FSU because the relationship with Ron Dugans, and certainly they didn't do anything to hurt that at all. I mean, he had a phenomenal visit. I've heard he was close to even pulling the trigger on the visit, but he's coming back for the Saturday Night Live event on July 27th. I think FSU is in a very strong position there, and I've already projected him to FSU in my forecast, so I feel pretty good about that. FSU is going to be able to pull him.
It seemed like a wide receiver wasn't a much of a need, but with Tamorian Terry poised for a big season, I mean, I know they're still going to have a bunch of guys coming back, but as receiver, I mean, what sort of priority does receiver have in this class, you think, and is Robinson the number one target for them currently?
I think Brian's probably the top guy. I think Michael Redding is another one that they have a good chance with that's high up there. He also visited in the summer. I think those two are really the main ones that go along with Malachi. And if you can get those three, I think they would probably do cartwheels in the football office because that would be a phenomenal haul. I think it's important for them to get between 2 to 4 receivers. Tamorian Terry, from what I've heard, not to tread on anybody's foot, but I think if he has a solid season, which all intents and purposes he will, I think he's got to probably leave early. So you need to get some options in there. Certainly they have some young guys that are up and coming like Trayshawn Harrison and Keyshawn Helton, but you have to get some young guys in there, especially with the way Browse uses receivers in his offense. He's going to want to use a lot. So I think getting between 3 or 4 really good ones, really good options is pretty important to the staff this year.
How about Thomas Schrader? There seemed to be a lot of good momentum behind him in his visit. Did not ultimately commit during the visit, but it feels like Florida State's probably in good position with him. He's a 6'5", 277-pound offensive tackle, 3-star from Venice High School.
Yeah, and I think FSU is in a good spot still. I think that would be my pick. Still, I think I forecasted him as well. But I think the key here is, he did take an official visit to Louisville. He hasn't taken an official visit to FSU. I think FSU's kind of not preferring kids to take officials in the summer. A lot of that probably stems from what happened with Nick Cross last year and, how things where they don't, if you get a kid in the summer, they might not want to leave. But I think they'll probably change that view just because so many kids want to decide in July. But so that visit to Louisville made a pretty strong positive effect on Thomas. Now he went to FSU. He had a great visit. I still think they're sitting in a good position, but it's kind of putting them in a harder position when you're fighting official visits compared to unofficial, because official visits are so much more detailed and you get to see so much more. So I still think they're sitting in a good spot. I don't think it's like without a question, it's a 100% done deal, but I'd say it's pretty likely that he's going to end up picking FSU. He has the longest relationship there. He's got the better chance to play early at FSU. Strong chance. He's got a good relationship with Randy Clements he's built. And then also Raymond Wood, he's probably the coach he's closest to out of any assistant coach out there. So I think that's a positive. Plus, it's in state, and you don't have to go that far. I think his dad, he was hoping to get on the visit, but he's flying back from Colorado, so his dad couldn't make it. Now, if you ask me if his dad was on the visit, if he would have committed, I think there was a likely chance that happening, that if his dad was on the visit with him, I think there's a chance he could have pulled the trigger. But I think that was one of the main reasons he didn't, was because he wanted to talk it over his dad, see where they're at, and go from there. But, it's certainly still not a slam dunk. I know people think, it's a slam dunk. It's not a slam dunk all the way, but I would consider it likely that he ends up at FSU.
Michael Langston joining us here on Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's. Michael's out in Atlanta for the Rivals 5-Star Challenge. And Corey and I were talking about it in the first segment of the show, but there are actually going to be some 5-stars out at this. There's a lot of 4-stars trying to vie for that 5th star. On the offense, Jalen Knighton, Michael Redding, these are guys that are obviously big-time Florida State targets. Bryce Gowdy, another guy that's going to be out there. How do things look with Florida State and Bryce Gowdy? It feels like that was a guy that there was a lot of sort of mutual interest between both sides, but is that maybe kind of cooling off, or is Bryce still a high on Florida State?
I think early on, I think FSU kind of shares my view. What I saw when I went to see them in the spring is there was some momentum there, but then when I went to see him, this is just my perception. I'm not saying FSU totally feels this way, but I didn't see a real explosive guy. I saw a big receiver, but I didn't see a lot of explosive ability. When I watch him, if you compare him to Michael Redding, or you compare him to Malachi Weidman, or you compare him to the other one, Brian Robinson, those three guys, in my opinion, are significantly better than him. Okay. So right now, I don't think he's a major priority to them right now. And I fully expect Bryce to tell me that this week, that, it's kind of hot and cold. But if FSU did push, I think FSU would have a really good chance. But at the same time, that time is dwindling down to make your move. And I just don't anticipate FSU making that move. I think they have others that they like better.
5-stars. How about we talk about some of them at the 5-star camp? Darnell Washington, the tight end out of Las Vegas, Nevada, 6'7", 255-pound tight end, number 2 tight end in the entire nation, number 15 overall prospect. What do you hope to see from him? He's big. I mean, I guess what do you want to see him, and what do you hope to see from him?
His film is outstanding. Like, his film is some of the best I've seen. And I would say that even if he lined up a receiver. I mean, he is so dynamic and so explosive. And my 5-star challenge preview will come out soon, and people read in there, I've been in there, that I think he's got a chance to be the best prospect there, because tight ends are so vital in these 7-on-7s and these 5-star challenges and the opening, because when they have a matchup on somebody, they have an advantage. They just go to those guys all day long. So I expect this guy to make big plays all day long. I mean, if what I see in person matches up with what I saw on film, I think he's going to have a big weekend. I think I want to see how fast he is. I want to see how the separation he gets from linebackers, because there's some good linebackers out here, including a pair of FSU commits and Steven Dix and Jan McCluster. But I want to see just the separation he gets and just how explosive, and obviously his hands. I want to see how consistent he is with that.
How about on offensive line? An intriguing prospect out of St. John Bosco, I think the same high school that Jaden Lars Woodby went to. Drake Metcalf, 6'3", 270-pound offensive lineman. He's a 4-star. What have you seen from him, and I guess just how legitimate of an option is he for Florida State?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm going to find out. How much realistically, if there's a chance. I hear Stanford's kind of the team that he likes, which is not uncommon from the West Coast. And, Stanford's one of the best academic schools around, and he's big on academics. So that certainly I would think they would be the favorite. But he's been talking to FSU a lot. Zane Herring's been working on him a lot. Zane's really good friends with him. They built a good relationship. So I want to see, are you actually visiting Florida State, dude? I mean, is there any interest? Is this, I mean, I know you're talking to him, but, my rule always, Aslan, is like, if you're an out-of-state kid, especially one in California, if you don't visit in the summer, you ain't getting that kid. So if I want to see if he's visiting, when he's visiting, and just kind of the interest level there. But I also want to see how he moves. I mean, I want to see how he plays against these defensive ends that we have here this weekend for the 5-Star Challenge. What is his weaknesses, what is his strengths, and just kind of, how he moves and his footwork. But I guess the most important thing for me is to see, how legitimately interested he is in FSU.
A lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball that Florida State's targeting that are going to be at this camp. You got guys like McKinley Jackson, and then obviously commits like Steven Dix, Jayon McCluster. Donnell Harris, I'm looking at this, and he does not look to have any sort of rating or ranking right now on the Rivals database, and he is a 2020 guy, 6'6", 205-pound, weak side defensive end out of Booker T High School down in Booker T Washington High School, Miami, Florida, rather. What do we know about this kid? I'm always intrigued when a kid like this doesn't have a ranking. You obviously know more about these things than we do, but when a guy doesn't have any sort of ranking or a number or a star on him, I mean, what can a guy like that what can he gain from an event like the 5-Star Challenge?
Well, here's the deal with Donnell. Donnell was a 2021 prospect. He just reclassified to 2020, which is why you see him in the 2020 class. My guess is they have not ranked him yet because they don't know where they rank him. They love him. He would be a high 4-star on the 2021 class, but I think they probably want to see him. I think it's almost a given that he's going to be a 4-star in some capacity, maybe an Rise 100 guy, very dynamic guy, but that's kind of the reason behind, where you don't see any stars, because he recently just reclassified. That just literally happened the last few weeks. So he is in the 2020 class. Probably going to be the most pure pass rushing guy that we see this weekend. He can get after the he can get after the quarterback. He's very dynamic, very similar to Chris Bogle. He can do some of the same things Chris did kind of last year. Well, he's a little more thicker than Chris is, and Chris was last year. So I think pass rushing skills is what you'll hear a lot about him as far as how well he did. I want to see what he does against the bigger guys. Can he physically handle them, or is he kind of going to need a year to get a little bigger? Because I think his profile says 207. That's a little light for a defensive end. So I'm curious to see how well he does with strength-wise against these bigger tackles. But that's kind of the reason why his ranking is probably the way it is.
That's crazy. Like we obviously know about early enrollees, but like the reclassification thing is crazy. You figured you'd want to get to college being as old as you possibly could, as developed as you possibly could be. But that's definitely an intriguing storyline that Michael will have us filled in on. One last guy. I think the reason why was if he waited, he was already too old. That by the time he was a senior, his eligibility would have been up as far as age limit. There we go. From what I hear, look at kind of the Kelvin Benjamin thing. I gotcha.
But that's kind of what that's what was explained to me from the Booker T Washington people.
Okay. Last guy I wanted to ask you about, Michael, and there's like 20 guys that are Florida State targets, and Michael's going to have updates on pretty much all of them on warchant.com. Use the promo code warchant30 if you're not a member to get the very latest and the best recruiting news and updates from Michael Langston and warchant.com. Philip Webb, 6'4", 212-pound linebacker, 4-star from Corey's neck of the woods, Buford, Georgia, Lanier High School. That sounds good to me. 6'4", 212-pound outside linebacker, sign me up. What do we know about that kid, and how legitimate is he when you look at his tape?
His tape's very good. My question mark is usually with 6'4", 6'5" linebackers. My question is, how can you move laterally? Because there's not a lot of 6'4" linebackers out there now. These days, people use linebackers kind of like ends. So the way FSU uses them, I think he'd be okay. Alabama kind of does the same thing where they use ends and linebackers, but I want to see how he moves laterally. I mean, that's what I want to see, how he does, how comfortable is he when he has to cover people. We hear a lot about Clemson, liking him, but I talked to Philip the other night, and Philip's like, yeah, I like them, but they're not. I don't have a leader. They're not a leader. So Raymond Woody's been working on him hard. I mean, if I had a gun to my head, I'd probably I'd go with that Clemson. It holds the edge, but I kind of want to see, if he's the guy that's going to come back to one of those, that July 27th event. That's a big deal if he's there, because that's his second visit, and then see if he's going to officially visit there, or how long he's going to keep this recruiting process going. If he tells me, hey, I'm going to commit in the summer, I'd say probably FSU won't get him. But if he commits later, like in December, in the early signing period, I think he's a guy that FSU could pull with a few visits in there. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in Phillip this weekend.
Boom, there we go. Have fun staying at the W Hotel, Michael. Don't dive too far into the minibar.
Yeah, and we're going to Hudson's Steakhouse, so that's apparently a very lucrative steakhouse, and Gene's happy he doesn't have to pay the bill. So, Gene's Raul's taking care of everything, so we're going to have a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks for your time. Michael Langston, WarChant.com recruiting analyst, joining us here on Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's. Thanks, Michael.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant, all Noles, every day. Now back to Corey and Aslan.
Thank you to Michael. We're back. Corey and I. It's Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's. Get you some Zaxby's, ladies and gentlemen. Support the people that support the people that you like. Shout out to Enol, by the way. Enol_2000, I think that's his handle. He tweeted at us. He took a photo of his lunch. It was Zaxby's.
Okay. All right, Enol. We'll take all those tweets.
Yeah.
Send them our way.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of interesting. Deondre Francois, this is first reported by Jake Ellman of the Palm Beach Post. #attribution. Attribution?
Attribution, yeah, you got it.
There are rumors that Deondre Francois, the former Florida State quarterback who announced he was transferring to FAU as a walk-on, is instead transferring to FCS Alabama State. Later that day, Maria Martin from WSFA Television in Montgomery, Alabama, I can confirm the Florida State quarterback, recent grad transfer for FAU, Deondre Francois, has been on campus at Alabama State all day. However, there is nothing official on him joining the football team at this point. This would be huge news for the Hornets. So he leaves Florida State to go to FAU, and apparently FAU, something has fallen through there. They apparently had a quarterback who started for them last year that was suspended for spring due to sexual assault allegations, which occurred in December, and I think within 1 week of the charges being brought against him, or the allegations being brought forth, the alleged that's not the right way to say it, alleged victim. Isn't that me being rude?
Yes.
The victim,
the
accuser rescinded the allegations.
Right.
So he was under sort of, I guess, school probation or what have you, or they were sitting him out the entire spring. Well, within 24 hours of the news of Francois possibly going to Alabama State and actually ending up on their campus visiting, that quarterback was reinstated. So I don't know how much of it that might be Francois thinking, oh, well, if he's back, then that's going to
that seems exactly like what would have happened, right?
Or, we just stuck our neck out and brought this kid back, and you kind of have a little bit of this kind of hanging around you, so maybe it won't be good after all for us to bring you aboard.
No, I think it's more about playing time, and you don't want to spend your last year where one player certainly has a built-in advantage over you in the fact that he's been there, he's been in the system, he's run the offense. I would think you want to go to a place where you're guaranteed to play, not might play.
Right. Well, that said,
But Hornibrook came here, he ain't guaranteed to play.
Yeah. So he'll be at Alabama State. In case you were wondering, Alabama State does indeed play Florida State in Doak Campbell Stadium later this season. So how about that? Well, imagine that. Francois, come back.
I think he'd get a good ovation, too. I think his first a quarterback for Alabama State, Deondre Francois, I think he'd get a good ovation.
Francois, please.
Because the kid, he was just battered and bruised. And other than the time he spun around all mad at Abdul Bello or whoever it was that tried to pick him up in the Carrier Dome, he handled it really well, never really talked down about his offensive lineman. He had some really nice moments at Florida State. I think he would get a warm reception back in Doak.
Okay.
Until he feels cane dough coming down on him.
Watch
I
out.
think those Alabama State tackles can handle cane dough.
That would be.
I think that would be. I don't know. Has that ever happened before?
Florida State quarterback coming back here.
Coming back? I can't. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody I'm not thinking about, but I don't remember it off the top of my head that's ever happened.
Well, Bailey Hockman is going to take.
Hey, we're going to do both of them.
Yeah, twice. It could be the Willie Taggart revenge tour.
Jeez Louise,
coming around here and.
That's right. Bailey Hockman's going to do it right after him.
Oh, I wonder if he'll be at ACC Media Day.
Bailey?
Kickoff, yeah.
Well, probably not. You couldn't do that.
Cool
I'm sure they got somebody else they'll bring.
That'd be cool.
It would be cool if we could talk to him.
I'm trying to see if there's anything trending on the Tribal Council. That's football related, so we can give you guys football. Although we just gave you a whole bunch of Cruton stuff. It's crazy, man. There's a lot of baseball. I'm proud of you folks. A lot of baseball.
Well, those kind of hires will bring out the opinions for sure. And like I said, I get it. I get it if you don't think that Florida State did the due diligence, that they could have done better. Why settle on it? But here's what I wonder. So are the people against hiring an assistant coach? Like, why didn't we go get a proven head coach? Right. Because, again, Florida didn't. Vanderbilt didn't. Now, he had coached at Presbyterian or something, but he was an assistant
20
before.
Years prior.
Yeah, before he was a long-time assistant before he came.
Virginia?
Virginia didn't. So there's.
I mean, LSU hiring Paul Maneri. Paul Maneri was head coach at Notre Dame. I'm sorry.
But they hired the guy before Paul Maneri, right? Was a Burtman assistant who did not do well.
He had a really cool Cajun name that escapes me.
Yeah, I can't remember. So I don't understand how you would be against hiring an assistant coach. If you are, then there's plenty of proof that shows no, man, assistants can come and do the job. If you just don't think it was fair because of the last name and that you didn't really do a healthy search, well, sure. I can understand that. But, again, Link Jarrett, Doug Minkiewicz, Grafal, all these guys, they're no more of a guarantee than Mike Martin. A lot of these people just wanted it to be anybody but Mike Martin Jr., which is odd to me only because of the success that Mike Martin Jr. has had at Florida State and helped his dad have.
So Skip Bertman was replaced by Raymond Peter Laval, also known as Smoke.
That's right, Smoke Laval. That's right, I forgot about Smoke. He did not do well, right?
He was there for 5 years. First year, 44 wins, regional. Second year, 45 wins, World Series. Third year, 46 wins, World Series. Fourth year, 40 wins, regional. Fifth season, 35 wins, no postseason, no job.
Yeah, that seems a little sudden. He was just in the World Series. He had gone to back-to-back World Series, and then all of a sudden he goes 1 year without a regional. But it's LSU, man. You missed the tournament. You got some explaining to do. But yeah, no, I think if Mike Martin Jr. goes to the College World Series twice in his first 5 years, he'll be set for year 6.
Okay, very well. What are we going to get excited about to talk about when football season gets here as it's approaching? Because I don't have a lot of juice in me right now.
Well, it's the dog days, as I like to call it. It is 1,000 degrees outside. It is crazy. We went on a walk yesterday, Brady and I. I thought it was a little overcast because it looked like maybe a storm had just rolled through, was going to roll through, and I'm like, this will be a good time. No, it was 1,000 degrees. We left puddles as we walked. This sweating was just ridiculous. It's just too hot, man. Yeah. What do people do out here in the day? How do you do it? How are these people running around?
Let's deal with it, man.
It's crazy. I want to go outside and play catch with my kid, but I want to survive.
Hey, let's call this segment "Forcing It." Like I force us to talk about football, and then we'll leave.
Okay.
Because there's really not a lot to
talk
talk
about.
about.
And I gotta get him to his camp.
If you are Willie right now, and I know he tapered back, that's the right word, but there wasn't as much access to the team during spring, just in terms of watching practice. I think there was only one day that we could actually go out there and film practice a week, or maybe it was 2, and he used to do it 3 days a week. And I don't get it. I can't. Sorry, you people at home like, I don't care about you guys covering practice. Leave them alone. You guys bother them. The media, let them practice in peace. Weirdos. Shouldn't he open it as much as he possibly can, maybe even more than last time, just so we see something that we like? Because what are we going to really genuinely, sincerely sell to the people that we're excited on if we can't really see a lot of what's going on at practice? Because I know people don't want to talk about 18, and Willie doesn't want to talk about 18, but the ghosts of that are still, hovering over this program. So if we don't see Alex Hornibrook lighting it up, or James Blackman lighting it up, or Cam Akers busting through holes, or Dontavius Jackson filling gaps, coming downhill.
Tamori and Terry going long.
Yeah, if we don't see that stuff, then I don't know. It's going to be a long preseason.
Yeah,
but
that's not his concern. His concern is Jacksonville and Boise, and nothing we see in August will raise expectations of this fan base. Just won't. Collectively, anyway. There might be some fans that are like, yeah, I'm really excited for this or that, but by and large, they ain't going to care what we say about what we see at practice. They're going to want to see what they care about what they see on the field. That's all. That's all that matters. When you can't do a 5-7 and then drum up excitement by opening practice. Like, you can open up practice, that's fine. I don't care. I'm all on board with that. But that's not going to do anything for the collective excitement of the fan base. They're just going to care this Saturday night. Is it a night game?
Yeah, 7:30.
Yeah, they're going to care that Saturday night. And if August 18th, we're telling them, guys, this defense is out of control. It is great. It's going to be a whole different ball game. Then they we'll give up 44 points to Boise State. Everybody's going to be mad at us. I don't want to handle that. I don't want to deal with that. I'm not coaching this team. So, yeah, there's open it up, not open it up. Yeah, you're right. No fans care about that. But I don't think Willie cares about it. Willie knows the deal. You better win. You better look competent.
But it's like, we saw Burns doing really good, and we're like, man, Burns is going to have a really good season. And I know for a lot of people, he didn't live up to the expectations, but I thought he had a really good season. We saw Tamori and Terry, and we're like, man, this kid is legitimately has everything that you want, and he did quite well. And those were really the only two shining spots of that team, and we saw it and we called it. So I mean, it's going to be
Marvin.
No, we really didn't see him practice a lot.
No, I'm saying, but he was a shining spot on the team.
Yeah.
He was good. But yeah, no, and we thought their offensive line might struggle, and we were right. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know that it won't. For the fan base's perspective, I don't think anything we can say about what we see at practice will mean much.
Then what are they going to cling to? Because I don't know. There's a certain amount of fans there's probably a decent amount of fans that are of your belief, which is just like, hey, just shut up. Just let's get to Jacksonville and then we'll see what's going on.
Well, I don't want to shut up. I'm just saying they're going to roll their eyes or have a jaundiced view of things no matter what we say.
Yeah. But there's also people I think they'll want to know what's going on. They want to see, like, hey, is Kendo actually looking good? Like, is he coming off the edge and actually looking good?
I'm with you.
Are we turning around in the secondary? Are we doing PBUs out there? Are we breaking passes up? I don't know, but I'll have to get excited about it, right?
Well, we got July 4th coming up here soon.
About it.
We got Independence Day, get to celebrate this great country's freedom. I think Bastille Day is 10 days after that. We can celebrate the French Revolution.
Okay.
Right. A lot of things coming up down the pipe over the next couple weeks that you're going to come to Wake Up War Chant for just to hear us talk about. Bastille Day probably especially.
All right, we will probably do a show tomorrow since Meat will be introduced, and maybe we'll have some more information to pass along.
Probably play some audio from that, right?
Yeah, we can do that.
We can pipe in some audio. Yeah,
we can do that. We also have an interview with E.J. Manuel of Florida State fame.
Oh, that's right. Well, you have an interview with him,
well, you gave
but
me
still listen to it, folks.
Yeah, we'll probably drop that this week at some point, and then I will be out covering football, and we'll probably we'll piggyback that with the Renegade Express, and we'll do a show later this week, like maybe a Thursday program.
All right.
So that's what we'll do.
Word.
Okay. We're done here, everybody.
We did it, everyone.
Have a great day.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.